I was an absolute idiot when I started in the gym for the first time. I was one of those people who didn't want to look stuff up. I always just wanted to figure it out myself. Definitely not my smartest move looking back, but basically what I'm going to run through is my 5 biggest mistakes I made when I first started that I wish I would have just done the simple thing of researching, because it cost me months of work for literally no reason at all. I'm going to run through those. Hopefully it helps. Doing cardio before my workouts. So if you're not doing cardio already, make sure you start doing cardio. It's really good for your health. It's good for your heart. It helps everything flow better. Make sure you're doing cardio. But doing cardio before my workouts was a terrible mistake, because then when you get to your workout, you basically have no energy whatsoever. You're not able to do your full workout. Definitely make sure that you're doing it after the fact, because you want as much energy as possible for your workout. Cardio is basically just the add-on to that. Your heart rate's already going to be up from your workout. You're basically just wanting to add up a little bit more to it so you can get the best out of your trip. You have a lot more that you're able to complete that way as well. Basically, you're able to push as far as you can throughout the workout, and finally towards the very end, your energy is going to deplete and you're going to be able to finish off strong as opposed to leaving feeling unaccomplished. Number 2. Training with reps as opposed to intensity. When I first started, my rule of thumb was 20 reps. So 20 reps, everything I was doing was 20 reps. Then it moved down to 16, then moved down to 12. But basically, I was always like, okay, this is how many reps I have to get, to the point where I would slack in other cases. So let's say I'm doing a chest press, right? I would want to use a weight where I know, okay, I can get 20 reps, but I still need to get 20 reps. And same idea. And I just kept repeating that for literally, it was like 3 months I did that. So what you need to do is focus more on the intensity. Now what I do is I'll do a high rep to start, kind of get my body acclimated to the machine or the workout, exercise, whatever it is I'm doing. Then I'll lower it down to say 12 reps, but then I'll use a weight where I'm barely getting to that 12 reps. Finally, I don't count the reps. Like a lot of times I'll say I literally just can't count. It's pretty much how it goes. I'm pushing so hard to the point where my brain cannot keep up with the numbers. So the goal nonetheless is always to at least get 8 reps. Don't lift to where you're only able to get like 2 reps, because at that point you're just slacking. Basically, you're not able to get the proper form once you're doing like 2 reps or 3 reps. So make sure you're still getting very proper form when you're doing it. Absolutely make sure you're training with intensity, not reps. So if you want to start with an X amount of reps, say you want to start with 20 reps, then just decrease the reps, increase the weight, and kind of rinse, repeat as you go. For intensity, you just want to be able to push to where you can't really push anymore. Don't just worry about how many reps you're doing. Step 3. Ego lifting, or basically not worrying as much about my form. The reason I did this was because, to my understanding, all you ever needed to get big was progressive overload. What I didn't realize was you don't necessarily need to be lifting crazy heavy weights to get progressive overload. So kind of keep your ego in check when you're lifting. That's what I had to do. And it really sucks because I had reached a point when I had first started, I'd reached a weight where I was like, okay, I'm actually doing pretty good. For example, it was like the 225 on bench, that idea, like the milestone that I'd hit, but I never wanted to go lower than that. After I hit it, I was like, okay, this is what I have to hit. So when I realized my form and everything was absolutely atrocious and I was giving up so much more potential, I kind of had to take a step back and realize maybe it's time I actually start worrying about form. So my ego had a bit of a punch, but the best thing that could have ever happened. I'll give you an example. So instead of, say you're doing a curl, when you do a curl, of course you're going to be all the way out and you extend all the way up, but you kind of want to squeeze as much as you can at the top, slowly release, and make sure you're doing like full range of motion, versus what I was doing, which is ego lifting, where I'd pick up a really heavy weight and I'd almost use my body as momentum. So I'd do like one of those. You can even see in my bicep actually how much less that does for me, because when you're using your shoulder, you're not able to really squeeze. So you're up here, you already made it to the top, and most people just kind of instantly release. So you're kind of just doing like this. So you have this throwing, but then you have the form, squeeze down. So you can literally see the difference it makes. Just make sure you're doing proper form and you're slowing down. It's not a race. Your whole idea is to take as much time as you can to get the best pump or workout you can. So take your time. There's no reason to try and go all that fast. Step 4. Pretty easy one, not changing my workouts. I didn't think that once you have like your workout pattern, well, this is what I'm gonna do each and every day. But I'd go from machine 1 to 2 to 3, and I would just follow that exact pattern every single time, or maybe I'd switch it up, but I'd still do the same machines every single time I hit that muscle group. It's one thing if you're aiming for like a really big milestone and you think that's the best way to do it. Do what you want. I mean, as long as you're working out, that's great, but you will notice more soreness because you're gonna use different muscle regions and groups when you do different workouts. So if you're used to doing regular dips, for example, as soon as you try out like a machine dip, perhaps you'll hit a different part because you're pushing more forward with one of those. So you're gonna hit a different part of your muscle. I've done that so many times. That's why a lot of people, you'll see them like switch gyms randomly. It gives them an entirely new perspective on the workouts because you are forcing yourself to change workouts. And that's why you get so sore when you try out a new gym or you have to travel and you go to this new random place. A lot of times that's why, is because you have to try so many different things. So keep the workouts you're doing. I'm not saying change your workouts. I'm just saying implement other exercises into them so you're not always just doing the same things over and over. And of course, progressive overload, as long as you're doing that as a whole, you should notice results, but adding that other step in is just going to help you a little bit more. Finally, number 5, my absolute biggest mistake I made is not counting my nutrition. And you don't have to count step by step, calorie by calorie, gram by gram. What I would recommend counting is at least do intuitive eating. Editing me here, I meant mindful eating, not intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is like basing everything on emotion and not researching the nutrition and stuff like that. Mindful eating is more about like creating the awareness of what you're eating. Mindful eating is, I probably shouldn't do that. I could eat something a little bit cleaner. This should go without saying, but of course, enjoy meals. If you want that pizza, have it. Just be mindful that you should have a lighter dinner because you just had that big meal. It's kind of like that. Just, use your brain is basically what mindful eating is. I mean, mind is literally in the name. So if you don't want to count necessarily, just think in your head, should I be eating this? Like if it's a pizza and you're looking at it, you don't need the calories to know. It's probably not that healthy for you. So the best thing to do is, if you don't want to count, just eat things that are healthier. Go for fruits. Say instead of a soda, maybe try a juice like an apple juice, or of course water. Think about what you're eating instead of just eating it. If you do want to count though, I would recommend it like if you're really serious about fitness and you really want to get into the gym and trying to get that crazy build, counting your nutrition is going to be the best help you can have, because if you were eating foods before where you have hardly any carbs, then you basically have hardly any energy, because carbs are your main source of energy. Same goes for protein. If you're not eating enough protein, then your muscle doesn't have enough proteins to grab onto. So when you're not eating enough protein, you're basically just not able to build enough muscle, because protein is the biggest helper for recovery and muscle building. Having your nutrition in check. Calories, it kind of depends on the person. Best thing to do is, if you've never counted before, pick a calorie count like 2,300 or 2,400, for example. See what it does to your body over the course of a week. Make sure you're actually doing it every single day. When it comes to nutrition, you can't just do it a little bit and then on the weekend completely ignore what you're counting and just think that all works. For nutrition, you have to count every little step, every little M&M, stuff like that. You have to make sure you count them. Basically, you have to keep yourself in check more than anything else, because otherwise you're just screwing yourself. At least get 45 grams of fat or 50 grams of fat in if you can. Otherwise, your body doesn't really work how it probably should. So highly recommend that. And calories, like I said, just kind of play with it. Do week by week. Don't do like day by day. 2,400 calories for a week. Then go see what it does. If you gained weight, of course, that means you're in a surplus. So bring it down a little bit if you're trying to cut. And if you want to be in a surplus, then stick with it and just keep going. But yeah, I mean, those are the biggest mistakes I made when I was starting. So for the most part, if you listen to those 5 steps, even if it's only one of them you didn't know about, it's going to help you at least a little bit. Attempt them, try them out. If you don't like them, hey, it's just what I did. It's not necessarily going to work for everybody else, but it worked for me. So if you want to implement them, feel free. It did wonders for my journey when I was starting. Either way, if you did find anything in this video helpful or informative, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like if you want more stuff like this. Peace.